Assalamu alaikum, I'm Bhika and you with us in the lab, empowering, inspiring and informing our viewers. Please keep the feedback coming, we're enjoying the interaction. We women are truly amazing, and no matter how weak and frail we feel at times, we are totally resilient. Being diagnosed with an illness and realizing the tremendous physical, emotional and psychological challenges that lay ahead can be daunting. The key to survival is to develop a plan and fight for your life simultaneously. With us in studio today is Yasmin Valley, a mum, teacher and lecturer. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
It's only a pleasure. Shaheeda Hassim, a teacher and a mum of 3. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thanks for having me.
It's only a pleasure. Okay, Yasmin, can you tell us more about what does chronically ill mean, coming from a person that went through a major illness yourself?
Well, I was diagnosed with an acoustic neuroma in September 2016.
Okay.
And I have had a craniotomy to try and remove that. Unfortunately, they were unable to remove the whole tumor. But with Allah's mercy and His grace, the tumor was not cancer. So it still resides in my brain cavity. It's something that I have to live with day to day. There's been several adjustments that I've had to make in my life. But with God's grace and mercy, I am well and have survived all of this. And it's been 2 years already.
Alhamdulillah, you look amazing,
Thank
mashallah. Shaheeda, tell us about your diagnosis.
Well, Zakira, I suffered from severe stomach pains in 2014.
Okay.
Just got worse. And all the doctors I went to see just told me it's ulcers. In 2015, I used to like watching Dr. Oz.
Okay.
And he would say, check your stool. And that's what I always used to do. It sounds funny, but it's actually very good doing that. Then I saw blood in the stool. So I went to a specialist, and the specialist said, I guarantee you this is an ulcer. But I was not happy with that.
Okay.
Went back to another doctor, and she referred me to a surgeon at Little Company of Mary. Then he said, you know what, we'll do a colonoscopy and a gastroscopy because we need to determine, is it an ulcer and where's the blood coming from?
Okay.
I went in, it was in March in 2015. I did the procedure. The doctor came out, he looked at me and he said, good news and bad news. Good news, there's no ulcers. Bad news, we found a tumor. 3 centimeter tumor in your colon, and we need to operate as soon as possible. And it was quite shocking. And that's how I now found out I have this colon problem and not an ulcer, definitely not.
So it is definitely good news and bad news.
Yes, that was.
Sure, that's one story. Yasmin, your initial reaction when you were diagnosed, your feelings and your emotions?
You know, what happened was I started losing my hearing because this tumor grew out of my hearing nerve.
Okay.
And I developed something called tinnitus, which is a
dizziness.
No, not the vertigo. I did have that slightly, but the tinnitus is the sound that's in your ear. Yes, the ringing sound that's it's in my ear constantly. It hasn't gone away. And having gone to our ENT who had done the children's tonsillectomies, and I said to him, something's wrong. You know, and he said, you're way too young to have lost that huge a percentage of your hearing. So by that time, I'd lost about 60% of my hearing in my left ear. Which
so was it just the ringing, or did you realize there was something else wrong, that you were losing your hearing?
initially it started with the ringing, so he diagnosed that in 2013.
All right.
And then a couple of years later, I realized that my husband was actually waking me up in the morning to say, your alarm's ringing for Fajr,
my gosh,
which he's never had to do. But
Right.
if I was sleeping on my right-hand side, I wasn't able to hear it. And then I thought, no, something's definitely wrong. And, you know, one test led to another, and I had to have an MRI scan, and then eventually I was told that they had found a tumor. My initial reaction, just in response to your question, was absolute disbelief. I was angry, I was fearful. I used to sit on my musalla and ask Allah, why would you do this? You sent me 4 beautiful children. They're still young, you know, and how would I deal with something like this? It's not an easy thing for somebody to say to you, and I'm sure you can understand what I mean. When you sit across someone and they say, you've got a tumor in your brain cavity, you think the worst.
Absolutely.
So the initial 3 months were really, really difficult for me and for my family. We hadn't told my children. They were very, you know, they were quite little. 2 of them were little. The 2 were grown enough to go and Google and have a look and see, you know, what is an acoustic neuroma, what is a craniotomy, how do they do this type of surgery. So it was a really challenging and difficult time for us.
Okay, Allah grant you complete shifa. And once again, you look lovely, mashallah.
Thank you.
Shaheeda, what impact has this illness had on your family after you were diagnosed? I mean, you were living with ulcer and, you know, having the pain, but it was just an ulcer. And so once you were diagnosed, what impact did it have on your family?
Mishka came from university the evening. I was still at the hospital, and because we have a very open relationship, I told her the diagnosis, and I explained to her, and I said, don't worry about it. She says, Mom, but how can I not worry? I said, no, everything happens. Allah Ta'ala plans our life for us. He has planned this. Plan now for me to be here and for you to take over. Not take over as I'm not going to be here any longer, but to give you that bit of more responsibility. You are now going to have to mature faster. You're going to have to be there for Yasmin and for Alia. And I know you can do it. And she says, don't worry, Mommy, we are here for you. And that's now my Mishka's part. Yasmin and Alia took it a little bit differently. They were very quiet because they didn't know what to expect.
They didn't understand.
Yes. The support of my family was great. I've got lovely sisters. I don't have brothers, but I've got brother-in-laws. And they are my brothers. And they were there for me and my children through all of this. I survived my cancer, alhamdulillah, but not my marriage. So that was another challenge.
Okay.
So family support I did have, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. And again, I have to say this, you're also looking really great, mashallah, and it seems that you both are really powerful women that overcame the greatest test, I would say.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah. What impact has this illness had on your life, Yasmin?
It's had a huge impact
on your family life.
It was difficult for us, and it, you know, to explain to a young child. I mean, Iman was, I think, in grade 4 at that time, my 3rd child, and their father called them together in the TV room a couple of weeks after I'd had the diagnosis, because we now had to explain to them that I was going to go through this, and so as you say, their reactions were very different. She brought her natural science textbook and said to her father, that's the diagram of the ear, show me where the tumor actually lies. And that's what he explained. Our oldest child didn't say much, but I also think that it was daunting for her to have to realize that perhaps the responsibility would fall on her to take care of her siblings.
Yes.
Hamza was only about 8 at the time. He's now 11, and he just cried and said, I don't want you to have to go to the hospital. But during the time that after I'd been diagnosed, my mother gave me the best advice I think anyone could have given me. Because initially I was so fearful, and I became consumed with that fear. And I didn't actually want anyone to know. And that's, I think, human nature. In our psychology, that's what we are like in our thinking. That, this has happened to me and I actually nobody needs to know, type of thing. And my mom said to me one day, you'll never know whose du'as Allah will answer.
Exactly.
And, absolutely true to that, Allah has answered everybody's du'as. Every single person who has made du'a for me, Allah has answered their du'as. Because I have survived and I'm here and alhamdulillah living a normal life, as normal as I can. But my son Mikael had a very different reaction. And later, after I started recovering, I wrote a book called Faith. And the book is a memoir of my journey, of having been diagnosed, of having had to accept what Allah had planned for me. And when I did that, the moment I accepted that He is the best of planners, and this was all in His plan, there was nothing I could do.
No, definitely.
As much as I could have sat on my musalla and cried and asked why and pleaded and whatever, that plan was already there.
Exactly.
And He knew why He was doing it. And this book has been the most cathartic experience for me. It was therapeutic to write what I did. It's a very, very personal,
journey.
Well, it's a personal intake into what I actually went through, and I'm not a very open person in that way. But it's very, very personal, and it talks about what I actually experienced. And over these last few months, what I've realized is this book has helped so many other people, and for me, that has been the biggest success.
Wonderful, Shaheeda. What was one of the most difficult decisions you had to make personally? After you've been diagnosed?
Putting the responsibility on my eldest. But I had no choice. She had to see to the little one, the two younger ones, getting ready for school, because I was in bedridden. I had this bag on me for the drainage, and I couldn't move.
Okay.
So Mishka was there. She was really there through all of this. And the decision with other responsibilities in the house and that, I had my support of my sisters coming in. I had a domestic helping, but most of all, the decisions I had to make was, I have to be positive through all of this.
Yes.
I have to say to myself, look, Allah Ta'ala has put this on me. It's for me to win this. And to say pass this test, because it's all test that is putting us through. And be positive was the main thing on my mind. I cannot show my children that mommy is actually worried that she's not going to make it.
And I'm sure even though you put the responsibility on Mishka, it was still solely yours.
It was.
You had to oversee it, and she might have been helping you physically. And getting the kids ready, but that responsibility was still
mine.
Totally yours.
Yes, and support-wise, besides my family, my children, I had a wonderful support system from the school where I was teaching at. Or I'm still teaching there.
MashaAllah.
Most wonderful colleagues, helpful. The principal, the owner of our school, Mr. Mohammed. They just gave me that peace of mind to tell me, don't worry. Your job is there. We are there to support you. And that, because it can be a worry.
No, it's
stress, worried about your work, worried about your finances, worried about this and that and the other.
Absolutely.
Adds to the healing process.
Yes.
And because they gave me that peace of mind, I, alhamdulillah, got better sooner.
MashaAllah.
And that I must say, I've taught at many places, but I must say I had the support, and it's a wonderful institute to work in. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Allah grant you complete shifa and keep you strong and happy. Yasmin, you obviously had to gain a new support structure. How do you go about that?
I didn't gain a new support structure. I just maintained the one that I had. And like Shaheeda says, people rally around you. Unbelievably. people that care about you and worry about your well-being. It was amazing. Some of my friends would just pop in to say, how are you doing? Initially, the first few weeks, obviously, I had to be quarantined because of the risk of infection. I mean, I had a brain op, so the risk of infection was high. So you just, what I realized is that when you're very independent and strong as a woman, you often feel you can take on anything and you can manage on your own.
Yes.
But what I realized through this journey was that you have to stop and allow people to help you. You have to stop and allow people to be there for you, to help with your kids, to help at home, to be emotionally supportive of you. So alhamdulillah, I have also, like you, an amazing family, amazing support structure. My children have been my support, friends, colleagues, people from across the world actually. And I documented all of that in my book because I was so humbled by the amount of support that I had.
Alhamdulillah. Shaheeda, I think this is a bit of a quirky question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. A woman usually puts her family first. How did you manage to protect your kids from what you were really going through?
First of all, I believe that colon cancer is stress related. So my way of telling my children to look after themselves is by being open and honest about your feelings, first of all. Anything worries you, talk about it. Do not bottle things up inside. It's not good at the end of the day. It's not good for your mental state. It's not good for your health. So that's one of the things that I tell them. Whatever troubles you, sit around the table and talk about it. My little one told me last week, she said, Mom, I think we must have a meeting now. So I said, okay. She said, let's sit and have, and because there are things that's troubling her.
Okay.
And we sat around the table and we spoke about it. Each one of my kids said what troubles them about one and the other. And we sorted the problem out, crying in between, but it was sorted out. And I know how they feel about certain things. So that is important. Secondly, I was told by the doctor that when my kids reach the age of 35, they should go for a colonoscopy.
Okay.
So I've been telling them, and I told them, even if I'm not here anymore, please just go for your checkups. That's important.
Okay.
And furthermore, eating healthy.
All right.
Healthy eating, like I say, having a positive mindset will keep your body healthy.
Okay.
Because if you stress and worry, even about exams, I say what will happen. You study, if you don't understand that math sum, it's not the end of the world. Because they tend to worry, they tend to stress over things like that.
Exactly.
So all that, they must now learn how to cope with it.
Yes. So what you're telling them is look after your mental state in case it manifests as a physical illness later.
That's it, yes.
Have you followed your advice?
I tried to.
Okay, alhamdulillah, that's a good answer. Yasmin, your final words to our viewers out there. People that are suffering, or people that are going through a chronic illness or a terminal illness, and to people that are maybe taking care of someone that is terminally ill. What's your advice?
I think it would be the greatest reward to be able to take care of someone who's ill. Although I'm sure it is hugely challenging and difficult to be able to do, but I think the reward lies, with Allah, and that would be for them satisfying. My advice to people, and I say this in my book, is to allow your faith to be stronger than your fear. Always let your faith be stronger than your fear. Allah knows why He does whatever He does. And the moment we give in to that and we are able to say to ourselves, I have no control over what happens, but the Almighty, the Creator, the person who has created me and put me here to test me for this life, has control over everything I do, then everything falls into place. Whoever has any kind of illness or difficulty, if they believe in that and trust in Allah's wisdom, then His plan always works successfully.
Amen. And that's proof enough.
True.
Shaheeda, your final words to somebody that's been through and that's beaten cancer.
I would say just be positive. Be positive at all times. And live as if it's your last day. That's important. That means you're going to be good and kind and helpful wherever you can be. Because we don't know. Allah Ta'ala has His plan for us. And He surprises us. He just throws that surprise in. So you must be prepared. Prepared in the sense that even if He throws that surprise at you today or tomorrow, you've lived a good life and have treated people with kindness and love. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah so much. Thank you so much for being, it's a difficult thing to come out here and talk about your experience. Allah bless both of you with innumerous health and wealth and happiness and complete shifa, inshallah. Well, that proves to you the tenacity and courage of women in dire straits. I close off today's segment with a quote from Drops of Clarity. I'm no longer who I was, no longer who I thought I was. I am free. Catch us next week on Lodium Today for another great episode. Assalamu alaikum.
You can watch our episodes on YouTube and subscribe to our profile. Also stay in touch on Facebook, WhatsApp and Instagram, and we'll keep you up to speed with topics coming up next week. Don't miss an episode.